Hey, this is Christian. So last video was our first attempt at solving algorithm problems. It was my first attempt in almost 5 years. I haven't had any practice, so you guys kind of saw the last two problems were pretty simple, so I guess you didn't see too much, but in this video I'm sure it'll be more evident that I'm really out of practice. So I was honestly really excited and very happy that I posted my last video. There was some desync between my face cam and the audio, but I still posted. And as I was watching the video, even though I was excited and happy, I had some dark thoughts enter my mind again. I had a thought of I was watching myself solve these problems, and I was like, an elementary school student could probably program and solve these faster than you can. And I mean, it's true, kids these days, or some kids these days, are learning to program at a really young age. And, since I believe that, I went to a downward spiral of negative thoughts. Some old mentalities came up again. I was thinking, you're too old, you're too washed up. It's going to take you too long to graduate. It's going to take you too long to get where you want to be. There's no point in trying. Like, what if you fail? And the thing is, your negative mentalities usually, I guess you have negative mentality tendencies. So you'll think the same thing a lot of the time. So instead of constantly succumbing to your negative mentalities, you should prepare some I guess rebuttals for these negative mentalities. So what I do whenever I start on that downward spiral is, I stop myself for a second, take a deep breath, and then I think to myself that as long as I show up every day, I'm going to start seeing progress. And that's what I plan to do. I plan to show up when I want to schedule a video, and I'm going to record it and I'm going to post it for the next month, raw, uncut. Maybe after a month I'll start changing things up, but for this month, that's what I've committed to. So, all right, so jumping into this next problem, this is another easy problem. So this should be relatively easy to solve. I did read over it before I got on camera, just so I could get into the flow of things. So essentially, they're going to give you only one parameter. They're going to give you an integer. And I believe it's between 1 or 100. Or, yeah, 1 and 100. So they're going to give you an integer, and they want the number of hashes to equal n and the height to equal n. So, yeah. And then they want you to add spaces to make this kind of diagonal staircase. So the last line doesn't have any spaces, meaning the top line should have n minus 1, because there's one space here, 2, and then 3. So we're going to use that information to our advantage. So see here, there's 6 hashes at the bottom, and then there's going to be a height 6. And so the top line will have 5 spaces and then a hash. Okay, so I guess it saves whichever program you're using. So I'm going to do my classic setup. I'm going to comment what I need to do in this method. So n. So this one, I don't think we're going to have to initialize anything. We'll just print straight from here. Since we already have n, yeah, we should be able to use n. I guess we will need a counter, but we'll initialize a counter in the loop. So iterate n times. So that's what we're going to use the loop for. Iterate n times, and then print n minus 1 spaces followed by a hash or number sign. I don't actually know what it's called. And then, yeah, that's it. We won't return anything to the fact that we're going to be printing everything from this method, and it's also a void statement, meaning there's no return. A return void. Okay, so I'm going to use a for loop. We'll initialize I, and then as long as I less than or equal to n. Oops. So the reason we do that is because in the previous video we talked about arrays, and in arrays we don't want to go beyond the number of indices in the array. So it starts at 0 and ends at the length of the array minus 1. So that's why we use a dot length is less than that, so we would never reach that index. But in this case, we're not working with an array, so we wanted to reach up to the nth value because we want to print 4 different, or if n equals 4, we want to print 4 different lines, so we wanted to iterate 4 different times. Okay, so then we'll increment I. All right, so I believe print line, I think that should be the print statement. I might have to look it up in a second. I just realized I don't know. I need to iterate. I think I might need to make another loop that adds a certain amount of spaces to the string. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use I. So for right now, I'm not really too worried about efficiency. I'm just trying to get some programming fundamentals, or practice my programming fundamentals, and then later on I'll try to be more efficient. Also, I think these this website does test for efficiency. Like they want you to have a certain efficiency later on, but that's for later. So we want j to iterate less than I times, I believe. Let's see. So if it's 1, I don't know. I think less than is equal to I, because we do want it to iterate the same number as I. Okay. So I think here we need to initialize a string. I think it's capitalish. I don't know what to call it. We'll just call it A. And then we'll initialize it to this. Okay, now for this loop, we will, each time it iterates, we'll add a space. Actually, we want it to be less than j. The reason we're doing less, no, does that make sense? No, I think it's actually that. This isn't gonna work. The reason for that is the number of spaces. Oh, dude. The number of spaces starts off as more than the number of hashes. So we need this to be less than n. Yeah. So that way the number of spaces at the beginning is greater than the number of hashes. So now we need a second loop to iterate, to add the number of hashes. So it's 2 different for loops. We use k. So now we want k. Oh, this isn't gonna work either. K minus, well, this one, n minus whatever I is. I'll put this in parentheses. The last statement we had was always going to print n number of spaces. So it's always going to be, so if n equals 4, it's always going to print 4 spaces. So we need a way to decrease the number of spaces as we get lower. And then we'll do the same thing over here, but it's going to be opposite. Actually, the number of hashes that prints is n. Should be n. Oh, shoot. Okay, and the printout will be A. Okay, so I'm going to look over this because I made a lot of changes and I'm not super confident that it's going to work. Oh, forgot to iterate K. Okay, so let's do a run through. So we're going to pretend like string A is equal to 5. Okay, so it initializes the string to nothing. And then J, as long as J is less than n minus I, which is the outside for loop, just keeping track of the n number of iterations. So n minus I. So initially n is going to be 5, I is going to be 0. So it's going to print 5 spaces. Is that what we want? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it's going to print 5 spaces. That's not what we want. So it's going to be n minus I minus 1. So that way, so it's going to print, so in the first case, it's going to be 5 minus 0 minus 1. So it's going to be 4. So it's going to print J to 0, 1, 2, 3. So it's going to be 4 iterations. So we do want 4 spaces if on the first line if n equals I don't know what I was going to say, but we just want 4 iterations at the top line. So the second one is going to iterate the number of hashtags or hashes or number signs. And so the first line is just going to have 1. So we want to iterate through this as long as k is less than n, which is incorrect because then it's always going to print 5 spaces. So what can we do here? Ooh. Something we can do here is we can set k equal to I plus 1. Does that make sense? Yeah, I think it does. As long as k is less than Okay, so this one I think we're gonna decrement it. I'll show you why in a second. Let's see. As long as k, so here we're initializing k to I plus 1. So when I is 0, it's going to be 1, and so it'll still iterate. We could have just done I and then k is less than or equal to 0, but it's all the same. And then we're going to decrement k. So if I is 0, then it's going to go through this once, and it's going to print 1 hash. If I is 2, or no, sorry, if I is 1, it's going to go through this twice, correct? Yes, and print 2 hashes. Okay, so this actually looks good. Now let me make sure this works as well. So we still wanted to iterate when I equals 5, is that correct? Actually, we should start this at 1. Right? Give me 1, 2, 3, 4. No, I think that complicates things too much. I'm just going to leave it at 0. Okay, so now syntax looks okay, so we're going to run it. See what happens. Okay, it is capital S. Wrong answer. Oh, print an extra line. That's strange. Okay. So that means something is wrong with our hash loop. Since at the end it's not printing spaces, but it prints an extra line of all hashes. So let's see. Okay, I think it's this. Let's try again. I'll see, it was that. So since I was using 0, setting I, having the loop continue as long as I was less than or equal to n was causing it to do an extra iteration, confusing this method. Since I didn't use n as a reference, I used I instead. I would go to a value I didn't want it to, and thus printing an extra line. So now we're going to submit this code. Yeah, there we go. No. Did I submit a hidden test case for 5 hackos? I don't know. Let's see what this takes us. Okay, well, we succeeded in the hidden case. I don't know if that does anything, but good to know. All right, moving on to the next challenge. It's called mini Maxim. Let's see what we got. Given 5 positive integers, find the min and max values that can be calculated by summing exactly 4 of the 5 integers. Okay, interesting. Then print the respective minimum and maximum values as a single line of 2 space separated integers. So it looks like, are they in order? So this example shows the values of the array in order. So what I'm thinking is, it didn't specify whether or not the values would be in order. So I'm assuming we're going to have to do some sort of sort algorithm, which I don't honestly remember how to program any. I think Java has a sort function on its own. I guess it's good to use those because it's there, but I don't know, for the sake of practice, it might be better for me to write out my own sort algorithm. Okay. So we're going to be printing the min sum and then the max sum. Oh man, it was up to what is that, a billion? 10 to the ninth. Be greater than a 32-bit integer, so meaning we have to use long. So it looks like they're going to be putting them in chronological order. I guess we'll find out when we do our first run or submit the code. All right, so the array is already going to be passed to us. So we want a variable for the sum. Oh, okay. So we're not returning anything, so we're just automatically printing it. I'm glad I realized that, because in my mind I thought we were going to do two separate methods. So it's a variable for the min sum and then maxim. And then I'll give myself a reminder to make them type long. Okay, we're going to iterate through R. And then print min sum and max. Separated by a space. Is it a single space? Yeah, looks like it. All right, so let's do this. Min sum equals 0. X sum equals 0. Oops. I is less than the array, the length of the array. Okay, so now the min sum is going to be the first few values. So I don't know if I want to do it like this, but I did say I didn't really care about efficiency right now. So I'm going to write something and then I'll explain it. Oh, you know what? I just had a different idea. I'll write this out and then I'll write down my second idea. So initially what I was thinking is actually, I don't even need the second one. So it's going to hard code it so that in the case that I equals 0, it would only add to the min sum. And then in the case that I is at the end of the array, so that's array dot length. The index of that is array dot length minus 1. That it would only increment maxim. And this return statement just takes you back to the top of the loop. But the problem with this is that in terms of efficiency, it's not very good, because every time you go into this loop, you're going to be testing this, even though there's only one occurrence for it. And same thing with this. And then down here, I would do iteration for both. Or, sorry, adding the index of the array into both sums. But I had an idea. So what I can do is, instead of initializing min-sum and maxim to 0, I can initialize it to the values that are unique to them. Well, this is kind of off. Okay. So this case, this is still assuming that the array is in order. So min-sum will initialize it to the first value of the array, which is the value, the smallest value, and the maxim will initialize it to the largest value, because in both cases we don't want to add the smallest value to the maxim, and we don't want to add the largest value to the min-sum. Okay, so I can delete all of this, and then I can just do a regular adding on whatever value in the array that's here, but I need to make changes in my for loop to start at 1, so that way we don't even touch on the smallest value, which is at index 0, and then excuse me, we'll end it at 1 less than, it'll actually end 2 less than the array, the length of the array, but so this way it'll stop before the last index of the array. Okay, and then finally we'll print the min sums. I'm honestly kind of impressed that I remember how to write this statement. I guess it's so important that it's kind of like engraved or ingrained in my memory. All right, so start with min sum. I forgot how to print spaces or print string between variables. I'm pretty sure there's add a space. No, that doesn't make sense. I can't remember. I think it's plus sign. This doesn't look right. All right, we'll try it. And then if it doesn't work, then I'll have to Google it. Honestly, programming is, I guess in my experience, like 50% Googling stuff. All right, so it worked, but we got the wrong answer. Let's see. Oh, see, it is in an order. Okay. It's got to be a sort method. I feel like there's a lot of better ways I could have typed that out, but that's what we're getting. Okay, yeah, this is exactly what we're looking for. See, look at that. Google's got me. He knows what I'm talking about. Arrays. Whoa. Yeah, it's okay. So this just prints what it was before, and then this prints what it is afterwards. Yeah. All right, I guess I've never seen a for loop structured like that. I guess this is designed for array only, since each element of the array has an index, so it knows how far to go, and it probably pre-programs an iterator, or I guess an I value. Interesting. I'm gonna make note of that. I like that. I don't have a pen, so maybe later. Hold on. My camera's desynced. Let's see if I can bring it back. See, I just realized these ads on the side is what desynced it. What does this do? Ah, it's back. We're good. Okay, so we're gonna use this arrays.sort. That's our easiest way to do it. So I'm gonna do it out here. That should be it. All right. It's close, but for some reason we're getting 304. So the difference is 3 between these two. No, it's actually 5. My bad. The difference is 5, meaning that somehow 7 and 2 are not getting swapped around properly. I think. That's my theory. But that doesn't make sense since I used a. What was it like before I did that? Let me see. So in this situation, the first number is right, which makes sense. Okay, the second number is wrong. Okay, because yeah, this one's correct because even though 2 and 7 are switched, all the minimum values are added, but when you go to do the maximum values, it doesn't work since 7 isn't included in that addition. So we have two different situations. When we don't sort it, the second number is wrong, but for some reason when we do sort it, the first number is wrong. So there might be something wrong with my min sum statement. Okay, so min sum, we initialize that correctly. And then we initialize this correctly. We start at I equals 1. And make sure this method's right. Arrays.sort. Okay. Yeah, so everything looks right. I guess there might be something wrong with my loop. Let me see. So an easy way to see what's going on with your code is to make a print statement to see what is happening certain parts of your code. So here we're just going to be printing out the array values that we're adding to min and max sum. So we're going to run it again. We're going to get the wrong answer because we're going to be printing out a lot of random stuff. It didn't show it to me. Interesting. Okay, so I don't know if I have to download this to see it. Okay, so it's not showing me what's going on. So I'm actually gonna have to work through this to see what's going on. So at I, we add to min sum, max sum. That should be right. Okay, so say we have 5 values. So for 5 values, we're only going to iterate through 3 of them. So r dot length is going to be 4. So it should only reach index 3. So it's going to do 1, 2, 3. So that's right. And we're adding. Yeah, looks good. I don't know what's wrong. It's kind of bothering me. So when we sorted it, for some reason, all right, 7 wasn't included. Was that it? Yeah, so this one's wrong. Oh, because it adds 7 twice. Oh, okay. I know what's going on. All right, since we were kind of sloppy and didn't initialize our array sort, or didn't pay attention to where we were putting our array sort statement, oops, it messed up because we're initializing min sum to 7 instead of 2, right? Yeah, since we sorted it after we initialized those, the maxim was right, but the min sum was incorrect. So now we should be good. All right, there it is. So now we'll submit. Yeah. Honestly, I really enjoy doing this. I mean, I run into a lot of really small problems, but a mentality or a philosophy I've heard about is fail fast. And I've been learning a lot by failing quickly. It makes me aware of things that like I previously wouldn't have thought of. So now I'm going to be more cautious about where I put when I sort my arrays, more cautious where I put my loops. I'm moving stuff around. It's a good learning experience. So I think I'll wrap things up for today. You guys saw me struggle a little bit. I'm gonna watch this later and probably be laughing. But yeah, until next time, I'll see you guys.